Back in Nigeria, King Chima had already announced he had a daughter, and the kingdom anticipated her return back home. Many felt it was a blessing as her return would reinstall joy in the palace, and it felt good to know that their king had a child. King Chima was eager. Does she look like her mom? How has she really been? Will she understand why he left her with Madame Eunice? These were words that flitted through his mind. Okpala, who the king had already told he would want him to marry his daughter, wondered if they would be compatible. Inasmuch as he wanted to please his king, his own happiness counted too. The well-looked forward day arrived, and Madame Eunice arrived Nigeria with the girls. It was a big celebration in the kingdom as everyone wanted to have a glimpse of the princess. Madame Eunice and the girls were led to the palace, and as they stood in front of King Chima, she introduced the girls to him after the expected courtesy had been exchanged. Turning to Kasiemobi, she said, "This is Kasiemobi, my daughter." And turning to Benedicta, she said, "This is Benedicta, your daughter, your highness." King Chima stretched out his hands to Benedicta, wearing a broad smile on his face, but she blotted out to the hearing of all gathered, "Don't touch me! When did you realize you had a daughter? When? You abandoned me with a maid." There was a hushed silence in the atmosphere as instant murmuring started. The king looked at Madame Eunice straight in the eyes as he repeated the word, "Maid?" "Please behave, Benedicta," Madame Eunice chided her, but she turned on her. "Do not speak to me. You will address me as princess, you servants." "Do you hear me? Address me as princess. It's not your place to tell me what to do," Benedicta said, throwing Madame Eunice to silence. King Chima looked at Madame Eunice with disappointment in his eyes. As the days progressed into weeks and months, it became obvious to everyone that Benedicta was bad-mannered. She spent large amounts of money shopping and clubbing. She flirted with men who caught her fancy without regard to anyone. She treated everyone in the palace with disrespect. Madame Eunice and Kasiemobi were not spared from her ill treatment. Okpala was torn between his loyalty to King Chima to marry Benedicta and his love for Kasiemobi, for he has fallen deeply in love with her. She was level-headed, soft-spoken, and compassionate. She portrayed the traits any man would want in a wife. She, however, has refused his advances because it was obvious the king wanted him to be with Benedicta. Kasiemobi was loved by everyone in Afor kingdom. Her aura was one of love, peace, and care. One day, while she was sitting in the royal library enjoying one of William Shakespeare's books titled Macbeth, Okpala came into the library. He had known he would find her there, as that seemed to be her favorite place since their arrival in the palace. "What might my lady be reading?" he asked as he walked in. Kasiemobi looked up from the book in her hands, and with a smile on her face, she turned the book over to reveal the back cover to Okpala. "Oh!" exclaimed Okpala. "That's an interesting story you have there," he continued as he took a seat beside her. "Have you read the book already?" Kasiemobi asked. "What do you think about the three witches?" she asked, as they both discussed the characters in the story, both lost in their own world as they enjoyed each other's intelligent contribution about the story, laughing softly as they role-played the characters they found very intriguing. Benedicta walked in unnoticed by them both. She took in the scene and screamed in anger. "You slimy bitch! Get away from my man," she said, hitting Kasiemobi across the face and dragging her off the chair to the floor. Kasiemobi's face reddened from the biting pain from the slap, and she scraped her knee from the fall. "Benedicta, stop!" Okpala tried to stop her from causing more damage as she rushed at Kasiemobi. "Let go of me, you idiot, choosing this tramp over me. What do you even see in this boring girl?" "Eh? What?" she screamed, getting more infuriated as Okpala raised Kasiemobi from the floor. The noise brought in some members of the palace, including Madam Eunice. She rushed to Kasiemobi and asked, "Are you okay? What happened to your face, child?" Okpala quickly narrated what happened to Madam Eunice, and as he handed Kasiemobi to her, Madam Eunice couldn't contain her anger. This child of hers was indeed a problem. "Why would you hit your sister Benedicta? Why?" she asked Benedicta. "Don't you dare refer to your trash as my sister, you old hag," Benedicta warned Madam Eunice. Okpala urged Madam Eunice to take Kasiemobi away from the library. He looked at Benedicta and asked her, "Why are you this despicable? Tell me why you are this way. That woman brought you up like her own child, yet you treat her with so much disrespect. Why? How come you're different from Kasiemobi when you are both brought up together?" Okpala asked, confused. "Well, forget about them, my love," Benedicta said as she walked up to Okpala seductively, placing her hand around his neck. Come, my rain, come sunshine. Come rain, come sunshine. You and I will be a couple, and I'm not stingy with you. You know, whenever you're ready, I'm not stingy. You know, whenever you're ready, I will let you have a taste of me." She said, trying to plant a kiss on his lips, but he gently pushed her away from him. "I have no liking for cheap things," he said as he walked out on her. She let out a very throaty laughter. "Run all you want, darling. I'll get you. Do you hear me? You are mine, just like everything else." Her laughter sounded and it made an echo after him as he walked out. One beautiful sunny morning, Kasiemobi decided to enjoy her morning in the palace garden. She moved from flower beds to flower beds, enjoying the sweet smell of the flowers and cool breeze in her face. She raised her face to the heavens with her eyes closed as she inhaled the sweet fragrance of nature's gifts when a voice said from right in front of her, "Enjoying my private place?" Startled, Kasiemobi's eyes flew open as she looked at King Chima. "I'm so sorry, Your Highness. I couldn't resist his allure," she responded with a curtsy. "No need to apologize. Please enjoy. May I walk around with you, dear?" the king asked as she obliged him. Kasiemobi and King Chima walked around the garden admiring the flowers, King Chima telling her about each flower's uniqueness. "It amazes me how Your Highness knows so much about flowers," she said. "First of all, dear, it will please me if you refer to me as Dad. And yes, I have a history, a love history in this very garden, which is why or how I came to love flowers," the king responded. Kasiemobi was happy to call him Dad as requested. It felt good to say the word. Upon her gentle insistence, King Chima told her about his love story in the garden, how he had met Ndudi and his marriage to her. Kasiemobi was fascinated by his story. "No wonder this place is so special," she said in wonder, her beautiful face ignited by her smile. King Chima looked down at her and wished she was his daughter. When he brought Benedicta here and narrated how he met her mother, she had laughed at him for falling in love with a worker, saying he lacked taste in women and that she was nothing special. There was nothing special about the dumb flowers. Looking at Kasiemobi now, his heart swelled with love and pain he could not understand. Just then, they were interrupted by Okpala, whose eyes brightened upon seeing Kasiemobi. "Wow! Don't tell me you are into flowers so, my lady," he said to Kasiemobi. Turning to the king, he said, "Your Highness, have you engaged this lady in a conversation yet? Her critical reasoning will blow your mind." The king gave a loud laugh as he admitted to enjoying her company and ideas. Kasiemobi excused herself, and both men stood looking at her as she walked away. "She's really something," Okpala murmured. "I see you have a liking to Kasiemobi. I have noticed the way your eyes light up whenever you see her," the king said to Okpala. Truthfully, Okpala responded that it was true, and he has fallen in love with Kasiemobi. "I would like for the king to allow him to pursue his heart's desire. Who wouldn't fall in love? Who wouldn't fall in love for peace and beauty? I too wish she was my biological child," the king responded. "I relieve you of your obligation to marry my daughter Benedicta. No matter whom you choose as a wife, the throne is still yours after me, my son," King Chima said, with a tap on Okpala's shoulder. He walked away. When Benedicta heard that Okpala was free to marry whoever he chose, she went ballistic. She accused the king of not loving her enough. She accused Madame Eunice of using spiritual means against her marriage to Okpala. She never forgave Kasiemobi, as she accused her of witchcraft and fought her anytime they came across each other or they came face to face with themselves. Kasiemobi and Okpala became an item as their love grew. A wedding date had been fixed, and it seems like Benedicta had accepted she had lost Okpala, for she started treating Kasiemobi with the love of a sister. However, Madame Eunice was not swayed by her sudden change of character. She warned Kasiemobi to be very careful. The day of the wedding introduction came. As Okpala and Kasiemobi were so excited to be man and wife. The king had insisted it be held in the palace as he considered Kasiemobi and Okpala his children. Kasiemobi was beautifully dressed in a bright red dress that did justice in complementing her skin. This was courtesy of Benedicta. She had made sure Kasiemobi get the most expensive dress and accessories and wouldn't stop fusing over her. When Kasiemobi was called upon, as tradition demands, to tell if she knew who Okpala was, she slumped on the floor to the shock of all present. The palace was thrown in disarray as she was rushed to the hospital. Everyone anticipated she was pregnant. King Chima asked Okpala why he was impatient to get Kasiemobi pregnant, and Okpala promised that was not the case. The doctors, after running a test on Kasiemobi, said she was not pregnant and they couldn't find the cause of her fainting. She was fine. Maybe the stress of preparing for the wedding caused her to faint. She was sent back home as she was very fine according to the doctors. However, as time goes on, the wedding was postponed as Kasiemobi's health continued to deteriorate. The doctors could not ascertain what the problem was. The test came out clean, yet she grew weaker and weaker each day. The palace was mournful. Everyone was worried. What exactly was she sick of? Madam Eunice prayed day and night for Kasiemobi's health to pick up. Benedicta wept by Kasiemobi's bed, praying. She wanted her sweet, happy sister back. Okpala wouldn't leave Kasiemobi's side. He begged her to fight this strange illness. All efforts of the doctors seemed futile. Yet, no diagnosis of the cause of the illness. King Chima employed professional doctors. Kasiemobi was taken to the best hospitals. Yet, nothing was found wrong with her. She begged to be taken back to the palace. If she was to die, at least let her die in a familiar, comfortable environment with loved ones around her. I'm so sorry, my love, she said to Okpala one evening. Honey, what are you apologizing for? You are not capable of hurting anyone, Okpala responded. I'm sorry for putting you through this. I don't understand why my health is deteriorating. My body is getting weaker each day despite all the treatments. I'm so sorry, she said weakly between sobs. Hush, baby, hush. You didn't make yourself ill. Please relax, rest. I love you to the moon and back, baby, he said to her, calming her down. She fell asleep immediately. Immediately, he kissed her forehead gently and left the room. Okpala went to the balcony by her room and let out a throaty cry. Why? Why is she suffering so much? Please take my life in place of hers, please, he cried as he fell to the ground, weeping. A few hours later, Okpala woke up to something. A sound rustling or something. He was quite not sure. He found he had fallen asleep on the floor of Kasiemobi's balcony. He checked his wristwatch and he saw that the time was past 2 a.m. The rustling sound came again. It was coming from Kasiemobi's room. He quickly stood up to go into the room, but stopped himself as he had a strange feeling. He decided to go in quietly instead, and what he saw shocked him. Benedicta stood over Kasiemobi holding a syringe in her hand. She was about to inject its content into Kasiemobi's drip bottle when he caught her by the wrists. I knew it! I knew someone was behind this strange illness, he said in anger as he dragged her out of the room. Let go of me, you idiot! I'm doing this for you, for us, she said as she tried to break free from his grip. The noise woke up the palace. King Chima, Madam Eunice, and all the members of the palace all rushed from every direction into the large hall Okpala dragged Benedicta to. Let go of her now! King Chima ordered Okpala as he saw her being rough-handled by him. She is the cause of Kasiemobi's illness, Your Highness. I caught her red-handed trying to poison Kasiemobi's drip, Okpala responded as he threw Benedicta to the floor in front of King Chima. Benedicta let out a loud laugh. Idiot! He wouldn't hurt me. I'm his only child. Don't fool yourself thinking you are his son, dummy, she said to Okpala. Is what he said true? King Chima demanded of Benedicta. Yes! 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 She screamed as she slowly stood up from the floor. And it's all your fault, daddy mine. You gave my man to nobody. To a nobody, to that tramp, she said between gritted teeth. You evil child from the pits of hell, Madam Eunice screamed in anger as she slapped Benedicta across the face severally. Benedicta cried in pain and shock as it was the very first time Madam Eunice would raise her hand on her. Madam Eunice immediately fell on her knees in front of King Chima. As she wept, all her body shook violently. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I have wronged you terribly. I have wronged you. I did it because of her evil character. I wanted to secure my own age, so I lied. This witch is mine. She's my child. Kasiemobi is yours, Your Highness. King Chima stood rigid, looking at Madam Eunice. What are you talking about, woman? Explain, he demanded. Liar! Liar! Benedetta sneered. Quiet! King Chima bellowed. He turned to Madam Eunice and ordered her to speak before he loses his cool. Kasiemobi is your child with Madam Ndudi, Your Highness. I exchanged both children, knowing you can't recognize yours. Benedetta is a year older than Kasiemobi. You may ask Kasiemobi. My poor baby, her date of birth. Also, Your Highness, she continued between sobs, I remember the guard who brought Kasiemobi to me many years ago said he lived and guarded Madam Ndudi's home while she was alive. He mentioned that Kasiemobi looked just like her mom and that he had heard Madam Ndudi tell her personal maid that Kasiemobi had the same birthmark at the back of her left thigh, just above the back of her knee. You may confirm this, Your Highness. My daughter had no such birthmark, she explained, crying. King Chima walked quickly to Kasiemobi's room with Okpala behind him. The king called out to one of the female nurses to help turn Kasiemobi around gently so they could confirm the birthmark. They did, and there was a birthmark indeed, just like the one on Ndudi, King Chima's first love. King Chima was mad at himself for not remembering the birthmark. You are so wicked. How did you turn this way? Madam Eunice asked Benedetta amid tears. Why did you hand me over as the king's child? Benedetta asked. She has stood transfixed to the spot since the revelation. I did it because I wanted Kasiemobi. I wanted a daughter who would stand by me in my old age, Benedetta. What I know you cannot do. King Chima came back to the hall. I don't want to see these two. Lock them up! I'll handle them in the morning, King Chima ordered. Madam Eunice and Benedetta were taken away from the palace. It happened that Benedetta has been poisoning Kasiemobi little by little, daily, causing her to fall ill. If not discovered, Kasiemobi would have died eventually. King Chima wanted to have Benedetta arrested for attempted murder, but Kasiemobi refused. She begged her father that Benedetta was the only sibling she had and knows. Benedetta was chased away from the kingdom, never to come anywhere close to Kasiemobi or anyone connected to her ever again. Else, she will be charged for attempted murder and arrested. Madam Eunice was chased away too for being mean to Kasiemobi. She was not cut off from the monthly allowances she was receiving from the king. That continued. The monthly allowance continues. However, she was sent far away, never to set her eyes on Kasiemobi ever again. Benedetta left and started living a life of freedom, dating politicians, importers and exporters, being reckless and carefree, living the life she had ever wanted, a life of freedom and flirting. However, she was never happy. She was always an unhappy woman. Well, King Chima was glad Kasiemobi was his daughter after all. Her health began to improve speedily, and in no time she was fully recovered and was on her feet. Okpala and Kasiemobi got married. The ceremony was grand. They were free to display their love without a fear in the world. They both went to Paris for their honeymoon, and they both lived happily ever after.